Imagine you open your browser after a rough day and start clicking through bad news, angry posts, or discouraging stories. You might think the web is simply reflecting how you already feel.
That sounds reasonable. If I'm in a bad mood, of course I may notice darker information, but the browsing itself is not necessarily doing anything to me.
That is exactly the assumption this research challenges. The unsettling possibility is that what you choose to read may not only mirror your mood, it may also push your mood in the same direction.
So a gloomy state could lead me toward gloomy information, and that information could then make the state worse?
Yes, that kind of feedback loop is the central idea. The paper is titled, "Web Browsing Patterns Reflect and Shape Mood and Mental Health."
That matters because browsing is not a rare event. It is something people do throughout work, study, commuting, shopping, and downtime.
Exactly. The paper notes that humans spend an average of 6.5 hours a day online, with a large share of that time devoted to seeking information.
Then, even small patterns in what we choose could repeat many times.
And that is why the key question is bigger than, does negative content feel unpleasant? The researchers wanted to know whether the emotional tone of information people seek is linked to mental health, whether one can influence the other, and whether changing browsing patterns could improve mood. The tricky part is separating correlation from cause. Suppose people with worse mental health browse more negative web pages. What would that actually tell us?
Only that the two things occur together. It wouldn't tell us whether negative browsing worsens mood, whether mood drives browsing choices, or whether something else affects both.
Right. A person who is already distressed might actively search for negative material. In that case, browsing behavior could be more like a thermometer than a heater. It reveals the state without creating it.
But the opposite could also happen. Repeated exposure to negative information might drag mood downward.
And both could be true at once. That creates a self-reinforcing loop. Mental state influences the emotional tone of what someone seeks, and the information they consume then influences mental state.
That is more concerning than a simple one-way effect, because each step can feed the next.
Exactly. So the research problem had 3 layers. First, do browsing choices track mood and mental health? Second, is the relationship causal in both directions? Third, if browsing patterns are changed, can mood improve?
That last question makes the work practical. If browsing only reflects mood, changing the browser environment might not help much. But if browsing also shapes mood, there may be something to intervene on.
That is the logic. The paper tested these questions across 4 studies with a total sample of 1,145 participants, moving from observation toward experimental manipulation and then intervention. To study browsing objectively, the researchers needed a way to describe the emotional tone of the web pages participants chose.
They couldn't just ask, did that page feel negative to you every time someone clicked?
Instead, they quantified the valence of text on browsed web pages using natural language processing. In simple terms, valence means whether the language is more positive or more negative.
So the browser history becomes more than a list of URLs. The text on those pages can be scored for emotional tone.
Exactly. That lets the researchers compare what people actually chose to browse with measures of their mood and mental health.
But that still gives an association. How did they address causality?
The study program went further by manipulating the web pages people browsed and then measuring mood. It also tested the relationship in the other direction by manipulating mood and examining the valence of information people sought.
That is important because it asks two separate causal questions. Can browsing change mood? And can mood change browsing?
Yes. Then the researchers added an intervention designed to alter browsing patterns and tested whether mood improved.
So the four-study structure works like a sequence. First, detect the pattern, then test each direction of influence, then see whether changing the pattern can produce a better outcome.
That progression is what makes the evidence stronger than a single survey. The methods were designed to distinguish a passive reflection of mental state from a dynamic loop in which browsing and mood can shape each other. The results lined up with that loop. People who browsed more negative information tended to have worse mental health and worse mood.
So the observational part showed that the emotional tone of browsing was meaningfully related to how people were doing psychologically.
Yes, but the experiments are what changed the interpretation. When the web pages people browsed were manipulated, mood changed. And when mood was manipulated, the emotional tone of the information people sought changed.
So the direction ran both ways.
According to the paper, yes, the relationship was causal and bidirectional. Negative information seeking could affect mood, while mood could also affect the valence of later information seeking.
That makes the feedback loop idea much more concrete. A worse mood may steer someone toward darker material, and darker material may then push mood further in that direction.
Exactly. The final piece was the intervention. The researchers altered web browsing patterns in a way that improved mood.
That suggests browsing behavior is not merely a digital footprint for measuring how someone feels. It may also be a point where the loop can be changed.
That is one of the paper's strongest implications. The information people seek can both reflect mental state and help shape it.
And that means a browser session is not psychologically neutral just because the user chose the content voluntarily.
Right. Choice itself can be part of the process the study is describing. The practical lesson is not that negative information should be avoided, or that every unpleasant web page harms mental health. The stronger lesson is to notice repeated selection patterns.
For example, after a stressful meeting, I might keep searching for stories that confirm that everything is going badly.
Exactly. The useful question is not only, is this information true or relevant? It is also, what kind of information am I repeatedly choosing right now? And what is that pattern doing to my mood?
That is a different way to think about digital well-being. Instead of focusing only on screen time, it focuses on the emotional tone of what fills that time.
And the paper gives a reason for that shift. Browsing valence was associated with mental health and mood. The causal influence ran in both directions, and changing browsing patterns improved mood in the intervention.
So, if I notice myself spiraling through increasingly negative material, the study suggests that pattern may be both a signal and a contributor.
Yes, it can reflect how you feel, while also helping shape what comes next. That is what makes the loop powerful.
Then, a realistic response is not to pretend bad information does not exist. It is to become more deliberate about whether I am continuing to seek one emotional category simply because my current mood is steering me there.
That is the key perspective shift. Your browsing history may be telling you something about your mental state, but your next click may also be part of changing it.